Weirdest things noticed at Alexi Treviso case. Is she pulling placenta out?
What?
Firstly, she is surprised like she didn't see her tummy, and then she said they talked about this. Watch mother's reaction about autopsy of a baby.
Dia 4 descaretou B. Mari d'Elefant. Mari d'Elefant, também conhecida como Mari Assassina, era um elefante asiático de 5 toneladas que se apresentou no famoso circo de espetáculos de faíscas, e a história sobre ela é muito bizarra. Em 1900, um homem chamado Walter Eldridge foi contratado para o circo, como assistente de manipulador de elefantes sem nenhuma experiência. Ele liderou o desfile nas costas de Mari como a estrela do show e empunhou uma vara de elefante, uma vara com uma lança afiada em uma extremidade. Testemunhas dizem que ele a cutucou na parte de trás da orelha, fazendo-a ficar furiosa, agarrando-o com o tronco, jogando-o e pisando em sua cabeça ou esmagando. A parte mais estranha da história é que o dono do circo decidiu que a única maneira de resolver a situação, e como todos estavam furiosos com o elefante, era enforcar Maria. Em 13 de setembro de 1916, Maria foi enforcada com mais de uma multidão de 2.500 pessoas por guindaste.
Biggest gang in the city is CPD. You do anything to a cop, every single cop beelining to whoop your ass. Dude. We used to go downtown for the St. Patty's Day parade. All the kids from the neighborhood get together at 7 a.m. You take the train into the city, and a good old Irish time. One kid, he got into a fight. A cop tried to break it up. He hit multiple cops, and he got away. We get back. Everybody takes a nap. We go out at night again. At that age, there was still a curfew over here. At that time, I had a broken knee. I was walking. I didn't have crutches anymore, but I had the knee brace, and I couldn't move my leg all the way. I was with 2 of my friends, and we were going back out that night. There's this tunnel by Olympia Park, and me and these 2 friends walk through the tunnel. We pop out on the other side, and there's a cop there. He goes, whoop, whoop. Us being all underage, we immediately just run. I had this bum leg. I could kind of like trot. So I find a little crevice behind a car, and I just go and lay under it. I hear some footsteps. All I hear from behind me is, if you move, I will beat the shit out of you right now. I go, that was way more aggressive than I was expecting. Okay, you got me. And they are really aggressive with me. I'm talking like elbows and ribs, like arms behind the back, like whipping me around. I was like, what did I do? They're handling me like I'm a criminal. They bring me to the car, they open it up, and I'm like, yo, my leg. Like, I can't bend it. And they're like, yeah, shut the fuck up, Dakota. What? And they bend my leg further than it's supposed to be. Yo, that hurts so bad. I still have stitches. Why did they call me Dakota? I'm panicking in this car. They open the door back up. He's like, text your friends. Get them back here. I literally text my friends, like, don't come back here. They take me out for questioning. They're saying things to me as if I was somebody they were looking for. And they're like, yeah, you think you could get away with that? You think you could treat us like that and get away with that? And I'm like, officer, I don't know what you're talking about. They're like looking at me like a little confused. Your name? I had a state ID. I pull it out. My name's Doug, and I hand them my ID, and they look at it. Son, I am so sorry. I was like music to my ears. Yeah. What, like, who did you think I was? And they were like, there was this kid Dakota dropping cops downtown, and you're wearing the same jersey as him. Because I was still wearing the green jersey from the parade. Yeah. You fit the description. Then they go like, why did you run? And I'm like, curfew. And they're like, curfew? They're like, we don't give a shit about curfew.
Do you know the truth behind Teletubbies? The real story of Teletubbies is taken from a mental hospital in Bulgaria for a group of children. Lala has a distorted face that makes her smile all the time. She always sat in her room alone in the hospital, so her skin turned yellow because she wasn't exposed to the sun. Tinky Winky was 7 years old, and he hit himself on the wall until his head cracked. So they tied him up with a rope so he wouldn't move. Because of the rope and restrictions on his limbs turned blue. Boo was with them in the hospital. And when the fire happened, they forgot all about her. I think you know why she is red. And for Tinky, he was always hungry and sad because he was depressed. When they gave him food, he would just throw it away. Nipsey represented a deaf child who was allegedly tied to a fence outside and suffered frostbite. The characters of the Teletubbies are based off of real children who endured horrific experiences. Why would they base a children's show off of real-world horrific stories from a mental hospital?
I'm not trying to scare you, but this is terrifying. Remember when I said they were creating dragons in my past video? Well, now a lab funded by the same company has taken the DNA from a notosaurus that was found in Canada back in 2011. It had been preserved in ice for 110 million years. It had scales, claws, skin, all that still intact. Now to test things out, they started injecting small bits of DNA into pigeon eggs. And the pigeons started to grow strands of dinosaur features, like longer legs, and they started becoming bigger. Check this video out. Oh, but it didn't stop there. They started to experiment on baby chick embryos, and dinosaur-like creatures started to hatch from the eggs. Some even grew deformities, like this one right here, which grew no legs. Now this is where it gets scary. But before I even tell you, when you keep one of these as a pet, imagine you're given one by a scientist to take care of. Your third has to co-parent with you. Let me know who it is and tell me, would the baby dinosaur survive with them co-parenting, or is it doomed? Back to the story. They found out that the dinosaurs grew to full adults by around 2 to 3 months because it still had chicken DNA, and chickens grow to full adults after 45 days. One of the adult dinosaurs ate its caretaker. The company that funded the lab doesn't care and is proceeding to build a zoo where families can come in and see the adult dinosaurs.
Did you know Granny was based on a true story? Tamara Samsonova, also known as Granny Ripper, held her son captive in her house. If he made any sound, she would brutally beat him with a bat, and on the 5th day, she killed him by hanging. Granny had 11 victims, including her husband and her grandson. She was seen carrying their body parts in shopping bags on camera from her apartment.
What is the scariest story you know that is 100% true? A female friend in college disappeared from a party at another university in the city town 25-ish miles north of our school. She had arrived with another friend who I believe had driven. At some point she split off to play cornhole or something and was later inexplicably gone. Phone calls went to voicemail, police were called, but she was simply missing. About 10 days later she was found by a homeless man who witnessed her crawling up to a bus stop in the city, begging for help. She had broken a leg and an arm, and was in very bad shape. At the quite large party, she had her drink secretly drugged and was then led off by a group of men into their vehicle. She was taken to an apartment where she was drugged, repeatedly aped, and locked in a small room in between with a bucket to use as a bathroom. At one point after being injected with heroin and aped, she somehow managed to convince one of her captors to allow her to use the actual bathroom to clean herself up. This bathroom had a small window to the outside, and with the shower running, she managed to squeeze out and fell from the 3rd story into a large hedge/bush. From there she crawled from the apartment complex to the road and bus stop, where the homeless man saw her and called police.
Sometimes true for stranger than fiction. The case of Richard Trenton Chase is a story which even the most depraved horror writer would struggle to create. Over the course of 4 weeks spanning across 1977 and 1978, Richard Chase took the lives of 6 innocent victims in Sacramento, California. His murders gradually progressed in violence, beginning with drive-by shootings and culminating in acts of cannibalism.
Never, ever, pick up a hitchhiker. So this was told to me by an old family friend, Nikki, numerous times as a kid growing up, as one of those life advice stories to keep in mind through the years. And to her credit, I have never forgotten it. Whenever anything associated with hitchhiking comes up it always springs to mind and probably always will. Makes me a bit ill whenever I think about it actually. So Nikki, who grew up at the same time as my dad, so this was about early 80s I believe, was a young woman in her mid-20s. She's one of those real kind-hearted souls, always willing to help another out in a time of need, you know? And I can't imagine her being anything other than that when she was younger, so I totally see her doing this too. So, driving into the city, about a 2-hour or so drive out from town, she saw a man walking down the side of the road. As she neared he turned and, in typical hitchhiker manner, stuck out the old arm and thumb. Nikki, bless her heart, pulled over and asked him if he needed any help. She told me that he was really polite, if not a bit shy, when he asked for a lift into the city. Nikki gave a smile and popped open the passenger door for the guy, who tossed his bag into the back seat and buckled up for the ride ahead. They talked pleasantly for most of the trip. About friends, the news, etc. you know, happy small talk. She felt that they were getting on really well and even bought him dinner at the pit stop a little over halfway there. She says he seemed really flustered and awkward when she paid, but one of the things they had talked about was money and how he was pretty dang strapped for cash. Which was why he was hitchhiking in the first place. But he eventually relented and they went on their way. As soon as they got into the city he thanked her profusely for the ride and the food and asked to be dropped off once they hit downtown. Before getting out he asked for Nikki's phone number so he could contact her someday and catch up. Thrilled at the prospect of knowing how her new friend was faring, Nikki wrote it down for him and drove off with the warm feeling of a good deed done. Now I'm sorry if you were expecting something creepy to have happened by now, but I think this is what freaked me out so much as a kid, how nice everything seemed to have worked out. Nikki gets this crease in her forehead and a funny look in her eye when she tells me the next part. How a week later she got a phone call from her driving buddy. He didn't let her get a word in edgewise after hello and told her that she should thank God that she was raised so nice, because when he first got in her car he was planning on raping and murdering her once they got to that pit stop. that he was going to steal that car and dump her body in a ditch further down the road and go on his merry way. But after she talked with him so kindly, and treated him to dinner with a smile on her face, he couldn't bring himself to do it. He didn't think that he could live with himself after doing that to such a nice lady. And to please, Nikki, please, never, ever, pick up another hitchhiker. Then he hung up the phone. Nikki never got a call from him again. When she tried redialing the number, she got a payphone. So, Mr. Hitchhiker, I know I'm never going to meet you. Because I'm going to listen to the advice you gave your driving buddy and never,